Good evening, good evening, good evening.
Hey,
For
good evening.
all right, what's happening? For everybody who tuning in, as you all know, Election Day is May 18th. Ikey Raw, man of the people. This is Unsolved Murders in Philly. What I like to do is let the people know who's running for office, who needs to be elected in the city of Philadelphia. This is Craig Levin. Is it Levine or Levin? I want to make sure I'm saying your name right.
Actually, it's Levin. In Philadelphia, they call me Levin. Everywhere else in the world, it's Levin.
All right, so what do you prefer, Levin?
Levin. I'll answer anything, Ikey.
All right. Well, this is Craig Levin. He's running for judge in Philadelphia. I was intrigued by Craig Levin because I've been watching him, for the last couple of months in the city of Philadelphia. And the other day, I seen a post that Anti-Moore put up where, he did something for a family in the city of Philadelphia. I'll let you, go deeper into it and everything like that. But I just want you to, open up by introducing yourself, let the people know what you're running for in the city of Philadelphia, let the people know what you're all about. And I appreciate you for, accepting my invitation to come on.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for asking me. My name's Craig Levin. I'm running for the Court of Common Pleas, which is a trial court in Philadelphia. I'm a lifelong Philadelphian. I grew up at Broad and Olney. When I was about 14, my parents got divorced. So I moved to the Northeast, went to Temple University. I've been working since I was 14, started out as a paper boy. When I went through high school, I worked in a disco. I'm a little older. It was discos back there. I worked in a disco as a dishwasher when I was in 11th and 12th grade. I bartended through college and law school to support myself and pay for my education. I love this city. I've spent my whole life in this city. I raised my family, and I've always worked in the city. I feel like I grew up in diverse areas of the city, which gave me experiences a lot of people like me do not get. And in my 33 years of practicing law, I have represented people in criminal matters, civil matters, family court matters. And the one thing that I always talk about, besides my pro bono work and my community work, is the ability to relate to an everyday Philadelphian, to understand the issues that people go through. I'm not some pie in the sky, big firm guy who is not in touch with the people. I understand, I've been in small claims court, landlord-tenant court. I've dealt with tangled titles, helping people, which is an epidemic in our city that unless you're affected by it, you don't really understand. I've sued contractors who take people's hard-earned money and then don't do the work. So I understand the issues that everyday Philadelphians go through. I think that really gives me a leg up on some of the other candidates, because to really be a truly effective trial lawyer, one, you have to have trial experience, and I've handled in excess of 2,000 cases. But more importantly, I understand people, I relate to people, I'm comfortable. I've always been around people that are different than me in different walks of life, and everybody gets treated with respect and dignity. The one last thing I want to say before you ask any questions you have is I'm really proud of my pro bono work. I'm the chair of the legal department at the Philadelphia Democratic Party. It's not a political position. I represent people, and this is where Anton comes in. When a ward leader like Anton, and people don't realize he's a community leader, not just a ward leader. He had a young man that got in trouble. He called me at 11 o'clock Friday night. I was actually sleeping because I had a 7 o'clock breakfast meeting the next day. But I got out of bed. I made phone calls. I talked to the police. I talked to the detectives. I didn't get back to sleep till well after midnight, and it was a long day Saturday. But on Saturday, in the middle of a campaign event, Anton called me and he says, "Can you go talk to this young man at the police station? They haven't processed him, and his sister's concerned of him." So I left the event where I'm trying to rustle up votes so I could become a judge, and I went to the police station and I sat down. They took me back into a holding cell, and I sat there with him for a half hour because I wanted him to feel comfortable. I wanted him to understand that I had his back. He had never been arrested before. He had never been in trouble before. He's a 25-year-old kid. It was sort of a misunderstanding that should have never happened. He should have never been there. And I wanted to let him know that it was going to be okay, that I was going to fix everything for him. And by the time, he went back to his cell and I left, he felt really good. I was angry. I was angry what happened to him. I walked out of there, I was fuming because it should have never happened to him. And when you talk about issues with mass incarceration and, you know, black and brown people being treated unfairly and be saddled with, you know, a record. Like if this kid gets a record, it's going to affect him the rest of his life. And I'm going to fight so hard to make sure it doesn't happen. I mean, I lived it. One of the things that we see, and I got to thank the people of Philadelphia, running for judge and being elected by the people is probably not the best process to elect judges. However, the people of Philadelphia force you to be educated about the issues that affect them every day. And when you get a chance to sit on that bench, you understand the issues that affect people. Now, if we were just appointed politically, we wouldn't be able to understand those issues. But going around the city, talking to people, meeting people like Anton Moore, who is just a tremendous, you know, community advocate. These things are so valuable to a person who's running for judge. So I thank the people of Philadelphia for forcing all the judge candidates to get an education. And one of the ways I also got an education was in 2019, I saw what an issue and how important reentry programs are to the process. And I went and I joined Community Forgiveness and Restoration Initiative, initially volunteering my time, but ultimately they asked me to be on the board. And I'm so proud of the work that we do with a gentleman, Dr. Tommy Robinson. He's been in SEI Phoenix for 21 years. And while there, he's rehabilitated himself, earned 2 doctorate degrees, and started a reentry program on the inside, where he prepares the citizens to get ready to come to the outside, where we partner up with them and we take them from that point on. So I know I talked a long time, but these are the things that I've done to really prepare myself for this job, to educate myself for this job, besides my life experience and my trial experience. Having the ability to be involved in matters like this. And today, going to a gun violence rally from Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, where I saw Ikey. So that stuff's so important to hear parents talk about, because sometimes people forget about victims. They forget about victims are a big part of the process. And when you hear a parent talk about losing their child to gun violence, you can feel the pain and the raw emotion. And it could have happened 5 years ago, but you could feel the pain like it's still there. It never leaves. And and you see that and it affects you, and you see the other side. So as a judge, I'm going to make sure that I understand issues with criminal justice reform and mass incarceration, but I also understand the issues with the victims. And as a judge, you got to find that sweet spot where you get in between those two issues so you're fair to everybody involved.
Well, listen, that was perfectly said as far as the introduction and everything like that. And, you know, I appreciate you taking the time to explain everything to the people. But, you know, what we want to know, and, you know, what the people want to know as far as, you know, if you are elected judge in Philadelphia, you know, you have a family in front of you, you know, say, for instance, we have you know, like the story you just touched on.
Right.
If you wasn't there to save that young man, you know, I'm going to let the people know what was going on with that situation. It was a young man who was, you know, licensed to carry at the time, but he didn't have his permit on him, right? So correct. The district attorney's office asked for $1 million bail for this young man, right? And I had I had Carlos Vega on a couple of weeks ago who was saying that that's what's going on in the district attorney's office, that they just going in and asking for $1 million bail. So sometimes they getting it, and a lot of times they not. So it's looking like the district attorney's office not doing their job. So say, for instance, that young man would have made it through, you know, he come in front of you, and you looking at his record and everything like that. You as a judge, we understand, you know, what you would have did if you're running and trying to get in, because some people will say, well, look, he only did that because he's trying to get the votes. Of course, he's going to go there and, you know, help the family out. But as you sitting as a judge, can you, you know, let the people know what you would do for the community to stop the, you know, mass incarceration, and also, you know, the things that we said earlier, black and brown people go through as well. And when white people as well, because let's not be, I mean, it happened to white people as well. It's not a criminal justice system. You know, the whole system is just messed up.
Okay, so first thing, when Anton called me, it wasn't about running for judge. It wasn't about votes. He just called me and I did it. And, you know, then Saturday night, he blasted on social media. I get a phone, you know, late Saturday night, and I was surprised it was on social media. He sent me a text. He goes, hey, I hope you don't mind. I didn't do it for the vote. In fact, it was funny. He told me the next day, a couple candidates called him up and say, "Hey, can you set something up like that for me?" And I was like,
wow.
This was no setup. It wasn't a photo op. He
Right.
asked me to do him a favor. And the thing is, these are the things I've been doing for years. I do this for years. I don't publicize it. You know, it's just something that I did. But when I'm a judge, what I think is really important is you got to care about people. You can't just look at people coming before you and say, what's wrong with this person or something like that. You got to say, how did this person get here? Is it fair? What was their life like? What brought them to this point in their life that they did this? Was it just a bad day? Was it just a bad moment? Or are they a bad person? You have to have the ability and to care about another human being and want to help them. And I think as a judge, that's the most important part. And when you really understand Philadelphians and what they go through and how hard it is for so many people in our communities out there, you're able to look at that and fashion the right result. You know, and hopefully in this result that the judge is going to see what the bail commissioners saw. So when they asked for $1 million bail, we were able to set forth all the issues here, and the bail commissioner was upset, and they berated the district attorney and say, "This is ridiculous that you're asking for this much bail." So we got it down to $50,000, where he just had a sign. He didn't even have to put any money up. But if the bail commissioners didn't have a heart and didn't want to look in and see what happened here and realize that this young man, who's a good young man, has never been in trouble and is really just a misunderstanding, if the bail commissioners didn't want to see that, he might have got a high bail and he might have been stuck in there. And I know what that's like. I have a young woman, Brianna Mack, that she got arrested out in Delaware County.
Yeah, I remember that story.
Right. And she spent 10 months in jail when she never should have spent 10 months in jail. So, and part of the reason was because she couldn't make the bail. So as a judge, I have that discretion. I have that understanding. And when something like this comes before me, I could do the right thing. I could level the playing field. I could make sure things are fair and equitable. And that's what I'll do.
Do you believe in the death penalty?
I do. Well, I think I can't comment on that as a judicial candidate, but that is a very harsh penalty. It's not something that a judge renders. That's what a jury would render. In other words, when you get to the death penalty phase, it's up to a jury. Right. I don't have control over that. It starts with what the district attorney asks for. If the district attorney wins their case and they ask for the death penalty, then that's up for a jury to decide. But that's a very harsh thing. And what we're seeing.
What if it's just a judge trial? You say, I don't want a jury. You know, he just picked you to say, look, you decide my fate. You know, he get found guilty and the death penalty, you know, is on the table. Would you, recommend it?
Right. I don't think I'm permitted to ask that question, but I think the problem with the death penalty is we have the ability to rehabilitate people. People make mistakes. You look no further than Tommy Robinson. Here's a man who rehabilitated himself. He's been inside for 21 years, and I'm fighting to try to get him pardoned and get him out. I'm also looking at some post-trial relief. So when you have the ability to rehabilitate somebody, and there's a great program up in New York. I'm trying to remember the name of the program, where they pair the victims, like the family, the victims, up with somebody who committed a crime against them. And it's a cleansing process that rehabilitates somebody. And there's so many things that we know now through social science that we can do. So I think the death penalty is something that doesn't need to happen.
I appreciate that. I mean, that was a good answer as far as I'm concerned at the end of the day. I know it's a lot you really can't touch on, as a candidate and everything like that, but I'm just trying to, answer some of the questions that the people have that I see coming in and everything like that.
Fire away.
Yeah. So as far as we know how the criminal justice system is set up and everything like that. What do you think is a contributing factor to a lot of, the incarceration of Black and brown people that we see, as far as, some of the judges who sometimes may hand down harsh sentences that, some people don't, supposed to get, where like you said, that maybe they can be rehabilitated and not sent to prison for 20, 30 years, 40 years.
I think it's systematic bias. It's implicit bias. It's overt bias. I think it starts really with education. We have to do a better job of funding our schools and providing programs for people to give them better opportunities, better education, better opportunities, better jobs, less crime. It's a systematic problem. I think that's really at the root of all this. And as a judge, and you're right. The great thing that I could tell you, and I was talking after the gun violence rally to somebody, and I was explaining that all the judges because there's such a wave across this country of criminal justice reform. All of the judges that are being elected now in this city are well informed and educated on issues of mass incarceration and systematic bias. And I think it's such a great job that the people hold us accountable and that the people force us to be educated about these issues. So what you're going to see is as the older judges are retiring and leaving, people have been on the bench for 20 and 30 years, you're getting younger judges, you're getting judges that are schooled on the issues that really affect people, where maybe the older judges didn't have that, or they've been on the bench so long that they lose sight of that. You know, when you've been on the bench so long, I think you lose some patience, and sometimes you lose sight of that. And it's very difficult as an attorney when I'm before judges that do not have patience and they're disrespectful to me or my clients. It makes it very difficult process to go through. So I think as we're getting candidates that are educated, things are going to get better. So, and I always like it to say it's like a cruise ship. You know how hard it is to turn a cruise ship? You look at a speedboat, that speedboat, boom, or a small boat, it can make a quick turn. A cruise ship takes a long time to turn. When you're trying to change the problems in society, it takes a while, and it takes slow, unfortunately, tiny baby steps. And that's where we are. It starts with criminal justice reform. It starts with a district attorney who's progressive and understands these issues. It then carries forward to they are starting to see these issues. So we're turning that cruise ship. It takes a long time to make a difference in people's life, to make a difference in the communities in our city. It takes a long time, and we need to invest in our education. So I think it's a whole systematic problem. From my perspective as a judge, these are the things that I'm going to be able to do. These are the things that I'm well aware of.
All right. So as far as the I just want to get your thoughts on as far as the systemic racism and everything like that, because somebody touched on it earlier. They said they want to know how you feel about that, as far as And I wanted to ask you a question too, but it slipped my mind right now. But can I just get your thoughts as far as the systemic racism, as far as the difference between someone who comes to court because they can't afford a lawyer, and someone who can say their family might can afford a lawyer because of their skin color, because their economic growth, or whatever their family may have. And how some judges, don't even take that in consideration. Would you look at you as a judge? Would you be on the bench and take that in consideration, being as though where some of these people came from, because you may have defended some people like this before?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's why it's so important that being able to relate to people of every walk in life, to understand their problems. When you're sitting on the bench, I could read an article. I could read an article about implicit bias. I can read an article about mass incarceration, and I'm smart enough to understand the issues conceptually, but going out and working with returning citizens, going to gun violence rallies and sitting and talking to parents. There's a wonderful woman, Brenda Sacco, who works with like teenagers, and these teenagers, 15, 16 years old, they're afraid to walk out of the house without a gun on them. And to understand these issues, you can't understand these issues if you're just reading an article. You have to go out. You have to deal with the people. I understand people because I've been representing for years, and I understand the problems they go through. I understand when they're wronged by the system. And I think that's really where you have to understand. And with implicit bias, it's so important. I heard Merrick Garland, who is now our Attorney General, should have been one of our Supreme Court justices. But he was being questioned by Senator John Kennedy, a Republican, who, by the way, shouldn't be allowed to be able to use the name John Kennedy. We should make him change that name. But he said to Merrick Garland, he goes, "Am I a racist because I have implicit bias?" And Merrick, which is a stupid question. But Merrick Garland gave a great answer, and he explained implicit bias. And he says, That's in your subconscious. That's what everybody has. Even if you don't think you have it. Like, I don't think I have it, but it's there. Everybody knows it's there. It's your conscious. You have to be aware of what's going on in your unconscious and stay aware of those issues so that you don't let those issues affect your decision making. He also touched on stereotypes and how stereotypes are really at the heart of implicit bias. So not being exposed to people that are different than you, that are in different walks in life, when you don't have that exposure, you don't understand what they go through on a daily basis. Now, Ikey, I could never in a million years understand what it's been like to walk a second in your shoes. But I have a unique perspective. Growing up in Broad Olney, it's a black, brown neighborhood. It has been. I was one of the few white kids in that neighborhood, and that's where I grew up, and that was my community. And every day I lived in that community, and I breathed that community into my heart, into my soul, into my bones. I carry it around with me my whole life. That community has always been part of me. And why I can never understand what it's like to walk in your shoes, I understand that community better than somebody who's never been exposed to that community. I understand that stereotypes are wrong. When my parents got divorced and my mom took myself and my sister up to the Northeast, it was all white. And I felt out of place. I really felt out of place. And it was the first time in very rare situations I would see racism, and I would see people talk about the African-American community in ways that offended me because I knew they were wrong. They were relying on stereotypes. They were racist, and they're relying on stereotypes. And as they're relying on stereotypes, I know those stereotypes aren't true. So having the ability to have the life experience that I have really brings a lot to me, and it's made me a better person. It'll make me a better judge. So I think you got to be aware that these issues are out there.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. In closing, I just want to give you the floor, give you the opportunity to give you, last pitch to the people. But like I said, before the election, if you want to come back on, you can come back on. The opportunity is yours. So, let the people know why they should vote for you and what you're going to do for the city of Philadelphia and why you're the man to sit on the bench for the people.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to come on. I'll be happy to come. And whenever you have me, I'm happy to come on and talk about these issues. I think they're really important. I think it's a low information election in that most people walk in that voting booth and they don't know anything about the judges. So having the opportunity to open my heart up and show the people who I am is so important. I'm here. I want to do good things. I've been a lawyer for 33 years. I could just ride out the rest of my career nice and easy, but I want to serve the public. I want to end my career in something that I'm so proud of and make a difference in this city, a city that's been so good to me, a city that I love. And I think now more than ever, you need judges like me who understand the issues, who understand the people. And please go to my website, Craig Levin for Judge. Look me up. If you have any questions, send me an email. If you want to help me out, I would love it. We all need a lot of help because we got to touch the people, show them who we are. And thank you for this opportunity to come on and touch the people.
Hey, look, before we go, somebody asked a question. They said, how long have you been out of the hood?
I've been out of the hood for a while, but the hood never leaves you. It's part of you.
Right.
And, I was talking to Senator Anthony Williams, who's endorsed me along with many other senators and Isaiah Thomas and Derek Green on the city council and many of the unions, 1199C, 4733. And what I was talking to Anthony about is, I have a buddy and we go up to Trendsetters up, I think it's like 58th and Lansdowne. And I said, I feel more comfortable there when I'm in there, just having a nice chicken sandwich and a beer than, when I meet some friends or we go out for a drink on Rittenhouse Square. I feel more comfortable in those neighborhoods than I do really on Rittenhouse Square. That's who I am. That's who I'll always be. So I've been out of the hood for a while, since I was about 14, but I'm always going back. I'm up at the Southwest. I do a lot of stuff with Greg Benjamin in the 51st Ward and meet with his groups. So I'm technically out. I don't live there, but I'm always in and out, always back.
Well, that's what's up. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, this was Craig Levin. Hold up.
Craig Levin.
Craig Levin. I done
But
said
you
it
can
all
call
wrong.
me whatever you want.
Look, hey, listen, this is my man Craig L. The election is coming up on May 18th. Y'all got to get out here and do what y'all got to do. I'm going to bring it back on so you can talk to the people again. And like I said, if I see you around at the events or whatever, if you want to set something up, I think next Wednesday, if you're available, I'll be down Moss Rec because I'll be talking to some moms and everything who, you know, might know their kids doing something on social media next Wednesday on 14th. So if you want to come, I'm be down there at 6 o'clock.
All right.
So if you want to come down there and talk to the people, you know, the floor is yours.
Okay. I got to say, we got a million events and these campaign events, but they're the type of events that I want to go to. That's where every time I go there, I pick up something. I learn something that's important that's going to help me be a better judge.
Right. That's what I'm all about. Listen, this page is all about the people. You know what I mean? I'm not here to promote me. Like, I'm already promoted. You understand what I'm saying? But I noticed in the city, you know, a lot of journalists, you know, they only like to talk to the same politicians that they know. You know, the up-and-coming, right, the up-and-coming people who need to speak, they don't give y'all the opportunity. You understand? Like that. So I'm always going to give people who want to speak the opportunity at the end of the day. If you want to speak, the floor is yours.
All right. I'll be back.
All right, bro. We appreciate it.
I thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too, Ikey.